Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookercast, the podcast where books come to life.
And I'm so excited to dive into another amazing story with all of you.
Whether you're a bookworm or just love a good story, this is the place for you.
Every episode, we explore incredible books, talk about their stories and characters, and share insights that'll make you fall in love with reading all over again.
All right, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Get comfortable, and let's jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're diving into Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner today.
Yeah.
And this isn't just like a casual book club chat.
Right.
We're really going deep, exploring its place in modern fiction.
Absolutely.
And how Kushner kind of weaves in her themes and, that distinct style she has, that voice. I have to say, just starting this book, this mix of a mentor who's obsessed with Neanderthals, and then you have this protagonist, Sadie, who is caught between like activism and espionage.
Yeah.
And then this constant questioning of how we perceive reality.
Absolutely.
It just really pulled me in. What were your initial impressions? What struck you?
You know, one of the things that I think really makes Kushner stand out is how she can blend this really sharp social commentary with these almost surreal moments.
Yeah.
And then the characters are just so multi-layered. They're not always likable, but that's what makes them so interesting.
Yeah, it's not your typical kind of clear-cut good versus bad,
Right.
It's very nuanced. And you're right, the characters are complex. Our main character, Sadie, she gets involved with this activist group, Le Moulin, and you're never quite sure where her loyalties lie.
Right.
Speaking of Le Moulin, I'm curious, how does Creation Lake fit into this broader landscape of contemporary literature? What do you think?
Well, I think Kushner's work stands out because she's willing to tackle these really, really difficult questions.
Yeah.
It's not shying away from anything. She's really looking at, I think, contemporary anxieties, but she does it in this way that's both grounded and surreal,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, and I think there's echoes, you see echoes of authors like Joan Didion, for example, in her sharp observations of society and culture. But Kushner takes it a step further,
Right.
and she pushes it into this almost cinematic blend of realism and the unexpected.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about how Sadie's journey unfolds.
Right.
Can you give us a quick overview of the plot? Now, without giving too much away, of course, for those who haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Sure. So Sadie's journey is really at the heart of the novel.
Yeah.
And it's her involvement with this group, Le Moulin.
Yeah.
And they're this group that they're trying to do good, they're activists, but they also walk this line between idealism and potentially dangerous actions.
Yeah, and it makes you think about like, okay, what are the limits?
Absolutely.
Right, how far is too far when you're trying to make a change?
Exactly. And the novel explores that push and pull between ambition and those ethical dilemmas.
Yeah, and then we have these other characters like Pascal, this charismatic leader of the group, and then Bruno,
Oh, Bruno.
this mysterious figure who's obsessed with Neanderthals.
Yes.
What is Kushner doing with that? It feels so specific.
I know. Bruno is just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
His obsession with Neanderthals, and especially this idea that they could fish with their bare hands, it becomes this metaphor, Like, are we really as advanced as we think we are? It makes you question accepted history, even yearn for this simpler, more primal connection to the world.
It's like we've lost something
Maybe we have.
in our pursuit of progress.
Yeah.
And it makes you rethink what you think you know.
Absolutely.
And that resonates so much, especially today when, we're bombarded with information all the time.
Right.
It's hard to know what's real, what's true, what's not. Do you think that's something that Kushner's intentionally playing with?
Oh, I definitely think so. I think that the novel is constantly encouraging you, the reader, to question assumptions, not just about history, but about the way we construct our own narratives, our own realities.
Yeah.
Like Sadie, who seems to change who she is depending on who she's with.
Like she's performing.
She is performing. And it makes you wonder, how much do we really know ourselves, let alone the world around us?
Right. And that brings us back to these themes of ambition and identity that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It feels like Sadie's constantly, like you said, performing, adapting to fit in. Have you ever felt that pressure to kind of become someone else to be accepted?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's something we can all relate to, that desire to belong, to find your tribe, to find your people, but also the realization that sometimes it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
And I think Sadie's journey really highlights that tension between who we are and who we think we need to be to achieve our goals.
And speaking of journeys, this one is told in such a unique way.
Yes.
I mean, Kushner's voice is so distinct. It's witty. It's a little cynical at times, but it's also incredibly observant. It's not your typical, straightforward narrative.
No, not at all. And that's what makes it so compelling. She
Yeah.
uses these digressions. It's like taking these little side roads in the story.
I like that.
Yeah.
Side roads.
To explore these seemingly random ideas, but they always circle back to the core themes in this really interesting way. It's like she's inviting you into her thought process. You become an active participant in trying to figure out what it all means.
There's that part where Sadie goes on this whole tangent about quotation marks.
Oh, yes.
And how differently people use them. I mean, I laughed out loud reading that.
It's funny.
It's funny, but it also makes you think about language and communication and how we interpret things.
Right. It's subtle, but it's brilliant.
It is. And it's like those seemingly insignificant details become these layers of meaning. It challenges you to pay attention.
Exactly.
And to think critically about what you're reading. And she doesn't want to just spoon feed you the answers.
No, she wants you to work for it.
She does. She wants you to think for yourself. Okay, let's talk about some of the recurring symbols in the novel, like less babies.
Okay.
They're kind of creepy.
But yeah, a little creepy.
But also intriguing. What do you make of them?
The babies are so fascinating. I mean, they just pop up throughout the novel, always with these oversized sunglasses. And they operate on these multiple levels, I think. On the one hand, they represent innocence,
Okay.
this like naive view of the world.
Okay.
But they also embody, I think, the anxieties that adults project onto children.
I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like they're almost a reflection of the adult character's fears and desires.
definitely.
Okay. So we've got these compelling characters, this plot that keeps you guessing, and this layered style of writing. Feels like there's so much to unpack here. Where do we go next?
Well, I think it would be really interesting to look at some of the key moments in the novel
Okay.
and how those moments really bring these themes to life.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's dig into those key moments and see what we discover.
Let's do it. So one of the most pivotal settings in the novel, I think, is the agricultural fair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It becomes this kind of microcosm of all these tensions that are bubbling under the surface, both within Le Moulin and in French society more broadly.
Right. It's not just like, cows and prizes.
Yeah.
Sadie has been tasked with setting a trap for Deputy Minister Platon,
Yeah.
who represents that kind of bureaucratic power that Le Moulin is trying to disrupt. And it feels like, everything is kind of coming to a head.
Absolutely. And Kushner uses this event to explore, I think, those consequences of ambition, both personal and political. Like, how far are you willing to go? And the plan goes awry, chaos erupts. You see how quickly idealism can kind of turn into something much more volatile.
Yeah. And then amidst all the chaos, we have Franck, this almost mythical figure, like crashing the fair on his motorcycle.
Oh, Franck.
It's a wild scene. What's his role in all of this?
I think Franck's really fascinating. He represents this raw, almost childlike rebellion, you know? He was expelled from the commune, but he's still drawn to it. And it speaks to that primal desire for belonging, even when you kind of reject authority.
That makes sense. I love that scene where he's like circling Platon on his bike, then milk is spraying everywhere, cows running loose.
Yeah.
It's absurd, but it's also terrifying. You don't know whether to laugh or be genuinely concerned.
Right. It's like, is this funny? Should I be scared? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's Kushner at her best, I think.
Right.
Blending humor with this real sense of tension. She doesn't let you get too comfortable as a reader.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah.
And in that moment, Sadie makes a choice.
Right, right.
She flees.
She runs.
Yeah. And it feels like a turning point for her.
Yeah.
Like she's realizing, she's in over her head. Maybe she's been playing a role that she no longer believes in.
Exactly. It marks a shift, I think, from blind loyalty to self-preservation.
Okay.
But escaping doesn't mean she's free. She's still haunted by this feeling of being watched, of being manipulated.
Right.
And that's what drives her to seek out Bruno.
Okay, so she goes to Bruno, the Neanderthal-loving recluse. What happens in that encounter?
Well, that meeting is crucial. I think it reveals Bruno's true influence. He may be isolated, but he's very aware of everything that's happening. Like, he's pulling strings from the shadows.
It's almost like he's like a puppet master, orchestrating events without getting his hands dirty.
Yeah, he becomes this kind of oracle, offering these cryptic insights about reality, about human nature, about the interconnectedness of things.
Yeah. And that final scene where he's guiding Sadie through the night sky, teaching her to navigate by the stars.
Yeah.
What's Kushner saying there?
I think it's symbolic of Sadie's own transformation, you know? Like Bruno's saying, when you engage with something bigger than yourself, you connect to time, to the past, and the future. He's teaching her to trust her own instincts, to find her own way.
But she returns to Le Moulin, and they've turned against her. They accuse her of being an informant. It's like she's lost her place, her sense of belonging.
And that's the harsh reality, I think, that Kushner portrays.
Yeah.
Connections are fragile, trust is easily broken, and sometimes that search for belonging leads to isolation.
And the novel ends with Sadie starting a new life in Spain. It feels hopeful, but also uncertain. Do you think she's truly escaped the past?
I think that's the question Kushner leaves us with,
Right.
you know? Can we ever fully outrun who we were?
Yeah.
The choices that we've made. It's about the weight of experience, the longing for reinvention, but also the understanding that the past always shapes us.
It makes you think about the nature of identity, like how much of it is fixed and how much is constantly evolving.
Absolutely. And Creation Lake, it doesn't offer easy answers.
No, it doesn't.
But it forces you to confront those questions in a way that feels both personal and universal.
So we've covered the plot, the characters, these symbolic layers. But what about the book's impact on the world of literature? Where does Creation Lake fit in the grand scheme of things?
Well, I think Kushner's work is significant because she's really challenging conventional storytelling. She blends genres, plays with structure, and she's not afraid to tackle these big themes without offering these tidy resolutions.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier how she echoes writers like Didion in her sharp observations.
Yeah.
But she pushes it further into this almost genre-bending space.
Yes.
It feels fresh.
It does.
And I can see how that would inspire other writers to experiment.
Yeah.
To kind of push those boundaries.
Absolutely. And her exploration of ambition, identity, connection, these are timeless themes.
Yes.
But Kushner tackles them in a way that feels very distinctly modern.
Yeah.
Reflecting our anxieties about technology, globalization, the search for meaning in this kind of fragmented world.
Okay, so now let's open this up to our listeners. What resonated with you? Did you find Sadie to be a sympathetic character?
Yeah.
Were you rooting for her, even when she was making these questionable choices?
And I'm curious about your thoughts on Bruno. Did his philosophical musings kind of intrigue you, or did you find them frustrating?
What about the ending? Did you find it satisfying, or did it leave you with more questions than answers?
Yeah.
That lingering sense of what happens next.
Yeah.
Even as we wrap up here, I'm still processing everything we've talked about with Creation Lake. There are just so many layers to this book.
It's a book that stays with you.
It really does.
Yeah.
It makes you, you walk away and you start to kind of reconsider your own assumptions.
Absolutely.
About the world.
Yeah.
About people.
Yeah.
One thing I keep coming back to is this whole idea of belonging. Sadie goes to such lengths to infiltrate Le Moulin, but in the end, she's betrayed, ostracized.
Right.
And it just makes you wonder, can that search for acceptance ever be truly fulfilled?
That's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
The more desperately we seek belonging, it seems like the more elusive it becomes.
Yeah.
And Sadie's journey, I think, really shows how easily trust can be shattered.
Yeah.
How even within a community that seems so tight-knit, there can be these undercurrents of suspicion and betrayal.
And it's not just about fitting in. It's about the choices we make in pursuit of those connections, the compromises we're willing to make, and whether those compromises ultimately align with our own values.
Exactly. Sadie's constantly adapting, shifting her persona to kind of match the situation.
Yeah.
But it takes a toll. You start to wonder how much of her is genuine and how much is performance.
It's like that saying, right? You can fool some of the people all the time.
Right.
And all of the people some of the time.
Right.
But you can't fool all of the people all the time.
Exactly.
Eventually, the masks we wear start to slip.
And when they do, the consequences can be pretty devastating. Sadie loses her place in Le Moulin, but she also loses something of herself in the process.
And that brings us to Bruno, this enigmatic figure who's both detached from the world and deeply connected to it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around his role in the novel.
Bruno is like a modern-day philosopher, challenging these conventional ways of thinking. He sees history as this fluid narrative, not a fixed set of facts. And I think his fascination with Neanderthals speaks to this longing for a more primal, intuitive understanding of the world.
There's this sense that he's operating on a different level.
Yeah.
Like he's observing the characters and events from this detached perspective. But he's not entirely passive. He influences Sadie. He guides her towards a new way of seeing things.
Right.
That final lesson, teaching her to navigate by the stars.
Yeah.
It's about more than just celestial navigation. It's about trusting your own instincts,
Mm-hmm.
finding your own path in a world that often feels very chaotic and disorienting.
It does.
It makes you wonder if that's Kushner's message to the reader as well,
Mm-hmm.
to question what you're told, to look for deeper meaning, and to embrace the complexities of life without seeking these easy answers.
Yeah, I think that's at the heart of what makes Creation Lake such a powerful and enduring work of literature. It challenges us to think critically, to engage with the world around us, and to recognize the interconnectedness of all things.
And even though the novel ends with Sadie starting this new life in Spain, there's still a sense of ambiguity.
Right.
There's a feeling that she's still carrying the weight of her experiences. It's not a neat and tidy resolution, but it feels true to life.
That lack of closure is intentional. Kushner's not interested in providing easy answers. She wants us to grapple with the complexities, to acknowledge the messiness of human experience,
Yeah.
and to keep asking questions.
So as we emerge from this deep dive into Creation Lake, we're left with more than just a summary of the plot, more than an analysis of the characters. We're left with this sense of wonder, a renewed curiosity about the world, and a deeper understanding of our own place in it.
That's the mark of truly great literature, I think. It stays with you, it challenges you, and it ultimately changes the way you see things.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of BookerCast. We hope you enjoyed diving into it as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. See you in the next deep dive. Bye for now, and happy reading.